So I'd like to show you how I made this scene using just one VDB explosion from Embergen that I duplicated and scaled around this tank. Blender Octane seems to have changed a bit the way the volumes for the VDB works. I think it's not working anymore with the volume medium, so you need to use another setting. So I'll show you how to import an Embergen and VDB and set it properly in Blender Octane. So the first thing you want to do is go to the Jenga effects. They are animated, so they are quite heavy, so it might take some time to download them. For this example, I'm going to use this one, which is the gasoline explosion, and I'm going to try to do more or less what you see here. So you want to go downloading this. So as you can see here, this animation is 131 frames long. So when you extract the file, you'll get VDBs that will start from 0 to 130, and that's the whole animation. Before I import the VDB, I've set this into path tracing because you won't get the proper result with just the direct lighting, and you can also try PMC, but obviously it's going to be a lot more slow. It's going to be slower, so you want to go to path tracing. I gave this just 300 preview samples, and I've activated the Octane camera imager preview with the override, so I'm sure I'm getting the proper light when I render the final scene in this preview. And I also activated the glare and bloom effect. So let's import it. Press Shift A, volume, import open VDB, go selecting the first file. This is a sequence, so you want to check that into the properties, and it's 131 frames long, so I enter 131. And if you're not seeing anything, it's probably because this is an animation. So if you want to go at the middle of the animation, you'll start seeing something. If for some reason the scale doesn't look right, you can change this to something else and auto apply. It's gonna scale it differently. In my case, it's looked better when I was in meters, so I'm gonna keep the meters. Okay. So I'm just gonna put that over my scene. Like this. And I need a material to this, so I'm going to go to the shading tab. So yeah, this happens sometimes. You'll get the VDB out of the scene. I don't know why. If this happens, just uncheck it, recheck it, and it's back. Create a material. I'm going to call that explosion. So now you have this volume medium. You can start playing with the scattering. And depending on what you need, you may play with the density. That would be quite dense. Maybe you want something lighter, or even very light. Like that. That could be interesting for just smoke. Let's keep it quite dense. Again, if it doesn't show properly, you might want to deactivate it and reactivate it. I don't know why, but that makes a difference sometimes. So in my last scene, I set the step length to 1, which I think gives a nice look. And you can change this to different colors if you want a magic smoke, for example. But I want to keep it quite gray, so I'm going to keep it But you can give it just a slight color by using this scattering color here. Keep it rather light, and this one I think I'm gonna go up there for the absorption. So when you have uploaded the VDB, it came with grids of density, flames and temperature, and you need something to control the emission here, so you're going to select the temperature, and nothing is happening because I have nothing in the emission. I'm gonna go Shift A, texture, emission. I'm gonna plug in the emission, and it's blown out. What I always do when I use a texture emission is I put in the Gaussian spectrum, put in there, and it's blown out again, so I go 1, so that's better. And I need something to color this, so I'm gonna go Shift A, volume ramp. This is basically the exact same thing as the gradient, but it's adapted to the volume ramp, to the volume. So when you clamp it in, you'll get nothing, but as you can see, when I move the slider up to the left, I'm starting to see something. This can be red because it's an explosion, and we're looking good here. Okay. Now, if you want more control on this, because your slider is really tiny, the control you have is really tiny, you can amp up the power. Let's say, I don't know, 20. That's not bad. And you should be able to fine-tune this. Maybe you can bring another color. So you can play with the sliders here until you get the result you're looking for. So I think this gradient will do for this example, and depending on what you do with the power of the light, you're going to change its look. Now, according to this gradient. Okay, I'm gonna set it to 200 because I like the mixture of smoke and fire. And you can go back to the layout. Again, this happens sometime, the explosion is gone. So uncheck it, recheck it, boom. And this is the animation, so you can play with it. Let's see what it does. So depending on what kind of volume you want, you can play with this. So if you want an explosion that looks different from the first one you created, you can select your volume, go into object mode, press Alt-D, duplicate it. Uncheck this box because you want it to be a different one. You can go back to its parameters and change the multiplier to 0.5, so it has a different look. 0.1, or maybe 1.5. Yeah, so that's more like a smoke. And so let's see what it does. Oh, come on. So we've got this. Maybe we can change this to 1.6. So we get this. I would recommend that when you change the scale of this, you go back to object mode, because you can still see it. Maybe rotate it. Otherwise, it's gonna be slow. So we can do something like this, maybe. This a little bit up. one as well. And one more thing, you can still play with the emission here. Give it a second, so it goes, it's more impressive. And it's blown out like this because I've got a lot of bloom power here that I had set from the beginning to override. So if I take this out, this is how it looks like, but obviously it's gonna look better with the bloom effect. And basically that's how I created this image using the exact same VDB. I just added more debris, some electric poles here, and yeah, so with just one VDB you can make really good result and get something that looks like this.